10 everyday things that were invented by NASA. Why exactly are we sponsoring space travel? Taxpayers frequently ask this query. Even though space travel is great, many detractors contend that our funds would be better used for initiatives on Earth. These individuals are unaware that funding science directly returns funds to society. It's easy to understand why every dollar spent on NASA is thought to contribute between $7 and $14 to the U.S. economy. It virtually always results in advances that can benefit those of us on Earth when scientists are forced to find complex solutions to the problems of space survival. This list only includes a small portion of the incredibly valuable items developed as a result of the space program. Search the area. Some might currently be in your home or even inside of you. 10 insoles. In the end, man's little stride proved to be an enormous leap for the stability of an arch. With the crucial addition of insoles and newer items, the technology NASA utilized to create spacesuits for the Apollo astronauts altered the way sneakers are made. While the light insulation used to protect astronauts proved to be just as effective at protecting feet, NASA's rubber molding technology made it easier for shoe firms to include padding in their shoes. Following these innovations in the shoe industry, NASA engineer Frank Rudy eventually proposed the shock-absorbing design used in Nike Air shoes. People all throughout the world are walking a little more comfortably as a result of the technology that allowed men to land on the moon. 9 phone cameras. Our capacity to take and share photographs from a little camera that fits in our pockets is one of the most practical aspects of the information age. And yes, NASA deserves credit for it. Engineer Eugene Lally proposed utilizing a structured grid of light sensors to record still images at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, in the 1960s, which led to the creation of the digital camera as we know it today. Another JPL team created a technology that allowed spacecraft cameras to be substantially smaller in the 1990s. Along with improving the speed and battery life of these cameras, this invention also improved the image quality. At this point, the potential applications of this technology went far beyond telescopes. Quickly, these tiny cameras were found in everything from webcams to stethoscopes. Therefore, give the space program a brief nod the next time you take a selfie. 8 child food. While feeding infants might be difficult, feeding astronauts in space may be even more difficult. For this reason, NASA commissioned Martech Biosciences Corporation to provide a dietary supplement for their astronauts. However, while investigating the utilization of algae, these researchers came across strains that produce 2 fatty acids that are similarly present in human breast milk. Although our bodies naturally produce these substances, the researchers came to the conclusion that their supplementation could aid in the growth of weak newborns. If you're shopping for baby food, look for items that include DHA and ARA. Although there are no guarantees, you can at least be content knowing that your child is eating astronaut style. 7 artificial limbs. Although the idea of prosthetic limbs has been around for centuries, it is NASA that has made contemporary limbs stronger and more affordable. Artificial limbs were made using plaster and cornstarch molds for the majority of the 20th century. For many people, this technique resulted in limbs that were too heavy and delicate to use. In its desperate attempt to innovate, the Harshberger Prosthetic and Orthotic Center resorted to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center for assistance. A few arms and legs weren't too much of a problem for the group of scientists that constructed the exterior tanks for the space shuttles. The crew showed Harshberger their foam insulation, which kept the tanks light and strong while providing heat protection for the tanks. To Harshberger's astonishment, this foam worked just as well for securing prosthetic limbs. By making their prosthetics lighter, they expanded manufacturing and decreased prices for patients. The prosthetics business as a whole greatly benefited from this relationship. 6 memory foam. It's a straightforward invention that shields astronaut butts and poor backs alike. Some people might be astonished to learn that memory foam was first developed by NASA to cushion their aircraft seats because it is such a basic technology. Charles Yost created a business to market his product when it was created in 1969. He persisted in developing and making money from his technique, which was later used on everything from motorcycle helmets to hospital beds. In the end, NASA honored Yost's business and inducted it into the U.S. Space Foundation's Space Technology Hall of Fame for the material's low cost and high usage. You can rest well tonight knowing that NASA has given its blessing to your mattress. 5 joysticks. Joysticks were first employed by the U.S. Navy to land aircraft before they became popular in video games. These sticks, however, had the drawback of being bulky and huge, making them impossible to fit on a typical game controller. But eventually, joysticks were used on spacecraft, most famously during the Apollo missions. With the introduction of Sega's Missile in 1969, the first video game joystick was introduced. Players could move in 4 directions while using this stick, which also had a projectile firing button. However, it lacked the subtlety that permitted military-grade sticks to perform trickier moves. So where did we obtain the modern, compact, and multidirectional controllers? The Space Shuttle program, of course. Gaming business Thrustmaster Incorporated created an ultra-realistic controller that allowed the same technology to be used through a conventional game port after researching flight simulation controllers at the Johnson Space Center. A satisfyingly nerdy breakthrough that shows the true potential of game technology was the end outcome. For cochlear implants. Like any successful company, NASA has a history of bringing in brilliant individuals and giving them chances to develop. One of those geniuses was Adam Kasaya, the creator of the cochlear implant. Kasaya has no medical training despite creating a device that is used by thousands of deaf and hard of hearing people. Instead, he used his engineering skills to address his personal hearing issues while working as an electronics instrumentation engineer at NASA. Kasaya was aware of the limitations of conventional hearing aids, which did nothing but amplify sound. Instead, his invention sends information directly to the brain by avoiding defective sound receptors in the ear. It does this by picking up noises with a tiny microphone and converting them into electrical pulses. Kasaya, who was elected into the U.S. Space Technology Hall of Fame in 2003, is a shining example of how inventive thinking that cuts across disciplines may improve people's lives. 3 invisible braces. You need the correct elements in order to launch a rocket into orbit. NASA scientists have devoted countless hours to creating strong, lightweight materials that are specifically designed to address a variety of issues. Translucent polycrystalline alumina, TPA, one of these materials, was created by a business in collaboration with NASA to aid in infrared tracking. The developer was contacted in 1986 by a business called Unitech to address a different issue, orthodontic treatment. In order to avoid the shame associated with brace faces, Unitech was searching for a material that was both strong enough to act as braces and translucent. Although it seemed like an odd combination, buyers liked the invisible brackets that were produced. A material is a substance, after all. We can use it for everything, from finding heat to mending teeth. 2 satellite TV. Today's youth would never have experienced the strain of trying to locate the ideal TV antenna inclination. The space program's enhancement of wireless communication, particularly for television companies, is one of its most beneficial accomplishments. After successfully launching a number of satellites in the 1950s and 1960s, NASA worked with AT&T to construct the first commercial satellite, which was launched in 1962. NASA's ongoing communications research might eventually enhance the signal, image, and lifespan of these satellites. Eventually, this upgraded government-funded technology would make its way into industrial goods. Although space travel can help us learn about distant planets and complex scientific developments, it also has a significant impact on how we relate to one another. 1 Swimming suits. After the 2004 Summer Olympics, NASA and Speedo formed yet another improbable alliance. Although it may seem odd, there is a valid explanation for it. Reduced drag is one of the best ways for competitive swimmers to accelerate, and NASA's fluid dynamics researchers know a thing or two about it. In reality, the Aeronautics Research Mission Directorate of NASA concentrates its efforts on lowering drag and boosting spaceship productivity. They provided this information to help create the LZR Racer swimsuit. The 2 organizations created a suit that lowered drag 24% more than the previous racing suit through flume testing and mathematically sound design. Even though it might not seem like much, these suits can make a significant difference in races at the Olympic level. 13 world records were set by swimmers wearing the LZR Racer in 2008 alone. That's not difficult to understand how it affected things. That's for now. We appreciate you for being here. View more our channel videos.